Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the We the Locals podcast. My name is Josie.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Stuart.
Hello, everyone. Real quick, before we get into the rest of the greeting, if you follow us on our socials or any of our announcements, you might see that we are missing a person tonight. Unfortunately, our guest that we had scheduled, Commissioner Turkin from Boynton Beach, had an emergency pop up. Everything's fine, but he sends his apologies, but he was unable to join us last minute tonight. So it's just us.
Yay!
So, so you get us, and
we will definitely miss the commissioner, but
Yes.
we have lots we can talk about.
we have lots we can talk about, but we are going to be kind of putting it together as we go. Normally, we do some show prep on stuff to talk about, but tonight we'd prepped for interview process. But hey, roll that. The show must go on, such as showbiz, right?
That's right.
All right. So if you could please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe our channel as well as this episode, we'd really appreciate it. Sharing with your friends, family, enemies, neighbors, all of that is the best way to get our show out there and the information that we are going to provide for you and your community out into the eons in the atmosphere. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, we'd really appreciate it. If you'd like to support our show, you can do so by throwing us a Rumble rant or a super chat, as well as sponsorships. There, I know candidates are filing, which we will talk about tonight. And if you are a candidate and you'd like to have your name mentioned more than once and in a favorable manner, then then you can sponsor us. And if you are a business, you'd like to get your business name out there, you can definitely let us know as well. And I think that's it. You can donate to keep our lights on through our website. And that's what I got. How are we doing?
We're good.
Are we
good.
live?
Yep,
Are all
we're
good? All
live.
technical stuff is in place? Okay, beautiful.
Yep, I just put in the chat, so we're ready to go. If anybody wants to chat with us today, let us know any bills that they're
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
watching.
We're going to be talking a lot about, we're right in the throes of legislative session. We're about halfway through at this point. So if there's anything, we have some stuff that we're going to talk about tonight, but if there's anything you want us to bring up or to look up or to challenge our knowledge. I shouldn't say that, should I?
No, don't say that.
Don't do that.
We're easily challenged.
Especially tonight when we're like,
I was in interview mode.
I did too. I had all my interview. I was in a board meeting yesterday, which I'll talk about in a little bit, for the Solid Waste Authority. I sit on the community advisory board, so I was in that meeting yesterday, and they mentioned something. Actually, I'll just say it now since we're free form tonight. That we're. Are you watching us? Are you watching us?
Yeah.
While you're watching? Okay. I thought I heard my voice. I gotta lower my register just a little bit so I don't sound like a squeaky mouse. So I was at the board meeting, Solid Waste Authority board meeting, and one of the items that's going to be brought before the Solid Waste Authority board next week is they are looking to install AI cameras in the cabs of the trucks, of the transport trucks. So not the pickup trucks, because that's done by a third-party contractor, but by the trucks that are owned and all vehicles owned by the Solid Waste Authority. So they're travel vehicles, all of that. Inside the cabs, dash cams that would watch forward and inside the cab, and they're AI, and so they respond to what the driver is doing as well. So if the driver is speeding, it will say, hey, you should probably slow down. It kind of gives real-time feedback. If a driver gets on their phone, it'll say, hey, put the phone down. Like it does, and then it sends the information back to the supervisor so the supervisors can watch what's happening in the cabs. So it's creepy. But that being said, they're looking at it as a way to save a lot of money on things like lawsuits, because basically anytime an accident happens with any one of their trucks, immediately they get sued, regardless if it was the driver's fault or not, because it's government, so therefore it has endless amount of money, supposedly, and they will settle for anything. So they're saying a lot of times it'll be a good way for them to prove that their driver either did do it or didn't do it and cut back on the lawsuits, which will hopefully drop insurance prices, and so save money for the county or for the Solid Waste Authority in the long run. Anyway, so the reason I bring that up now is I specifically wrote down, because I asked the board or the staff, I asked if any other entities are using this particular system, specifically the company that they're looking at using, as well as in general this AI system. And they listed off a couple of municipalities, including Boynton, that are using these cameras. So I was like, oh, perfect. I'm going to be interviewing Commissioner Turkin. I want to ask him about it. So I've got that question marked here, point being is we prep a lot for what we're about to happen. So tonight is going to be
We're winging it.
It's going to be great. But yeah,
It's always great.
it's
when we
always
wing.
great. We always have a lot of fun. So, I have fun.
I mean, I have fun.
I don't know what you all have, but I'm having fun. I'm drinking a little bit of coffee, so who knows how that's going to kick in the next 20 minutes. It's been a really, I got bees buzzing in my brain week. We're getting ready for Passover. It's a lot going on. Last 2 months of the school year. I can't believe it.
I can't believe school's almost over
2 months.
already.
We've got April and May.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
It went by so fast.
Yeah. I can't wait.
So fast. I don't
School's
even know.
for the birds. No, I'm just kidding.
Ugh. I got out of there as soon as I could. That's for
just
dang sure.
Learning is awesome. School's
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
I love to learn. I love to learn new things. I hate
and learning does not have to be confined into the four walls of the school. So,
That's
as we
right.
all know, as here we are on this podcast, because that's what we're constantly doing.
That's right. Oh, shoot.
right.
I had a couple notes, too, that I wrote on a piece of paper, and I totally left them at home.
We got it together tonight, folks. We're here. Okay. So let's talk about. I have someone texting me some information about a story that they wanted me to bring up. Let's start high levels because normally we don't talk a lot about congressional stuff.
Mhm.
But just kind of giving you guys the information about races of the
That's
people.
the sexy races. So
I
why
know.
don't we just mention who's kind of jumped into
We'll
a
just
couple
mention 'em.
races?
So yeah, so people know you can pay attention. So we finally have someone. I just was looking on the wire tonight. Someone jumping into, like you said, CD20,
Mhm.
which is Alcee Hastings' old seat.
Old seat.
Held it for like 20 years. So that'll-
Sheila McCormick.
Yeah,
Now
isn't that
has-
like a hyphenated name? Sheila McCormick something?
Something.
I don't know.
It's Sheila McCormick.
Sheila McCormick. So that'll be interesting. I think Deborah Ademi is jumping in for CD22
Yep.
again. And then CD23. Do you have any filings pulled up Could you
no,
pull
but
those
I
up
can pull them
for the
up.
state?
Yep.
And then we can kind of delve into that a little bit.
Sure.
Thank you. Then for CD23, which is the one that we share with Broward, and in fact, the majority of the district is in Broward with a little bit over into Boca. There's a guy whose name is, let me see here, George, I'm going to say it wrong, George Moratis. So Abby, our former co-host, Abby, we miss you, Abby. Shout out, sent us this to put out for the information stratosphere, that he's a Fort Lauderdale attorney. He was a former state rep. His wife was a Fort Lauderdale commissioner. He was also the Breck chair from 2018 to 2020. And he is very well known in Congressional District 23 and has a resume to be taken seriously. So it'll be an interesting race, that one, because the re-election for that, it'll become an open seat if Jared Moskowitz resigns to run for governor.
Right. So Jared Moskowitz is filed to run right now in 23. There is a Michelangelo Collins Hamilton that's a Dem that's filed to run in 23 as well. And then we have two Republicans, the George Morales, whatever that last name is, sorry, and Joe Kaufman.
I thought Joe was planning to run again, so Joe Kaufman.
Yep.
Okay, so here's my question. Does it show governor?
Yes.
Who has filed to run for governor?
There's a bunch of them.
Okay, anyone we know.
Byron Donalds has officially filed. Let's see.
Jared filed to run for congressional district, not governor.
Correct.
For 2026.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of no-namers here for governor. Nobody that I would say would be like, oh,
Breaking news.
Yeah, no.
Okay, because here's an interesting thing. If Jared does decide that he's going to run for governor, that would be 2026. The terms wouldn't overlap, so he wouldn't have to resign from his congressional seat.
Correct.
So
he just would fail to qualify, and then he would be able to transfer any funds that he...
Or he would just withdraw from that race and
Correct.
file to run for that
Correct.
race. Yeah, and exactly. Fail to qualify. Exactly. Same thing.
Yeah.
So, but he filed to run for... Interesting.
Yeah, so we have 3 Republicans that have filed to run for CFO. Frank Coolidge, Joe Gruters, and Benjamin Horboy.
Joe Gruters, isn't he a current representative?
I believe so, and
isn't he one of the ones leading the charge to piss everyone off?
He's the one that's been endorsed by Trump, Joe Gruters.
Okay, let's get into it. Should we talk about the Great Florida Showdown?
Sure.
Okay, this is going to be very interesting, and I would like to caution everyone that it goes back to what we keep talking about over and over and over again about being tribal. And I'm very, very concerned for the state.
The thing of it is if you thought that we had a problem with our primary in 2024 locally, this is going to be that times 1,000.
The whole state. And it could implode the Republican
executive committees across the state.
It could implode the Republican Party in the state.
Maybe in general.
Because look, so this is set the playing field for those of you who are not following. And I strongly suggest that you follow us on Twitter because we retweet on X, we repost a lot of the things that are going on so you can kind of be following what's happening. So everyone knows that when DeSantis filed to run for president, there was a huge chunk of Floridians that followed DeSantis, then a huge chunk that stayed loyal to Trump, and it became very divisive and very disgusting. And nobody has recovered from that. There's been no reaching across.
Anybody that supported DeSantis in the local parties, and I know, I mean, this isn't, I'm not just calling out Palm Beach County. This was counties across the state.
This is all across the state.
That if anybody who supported DeSantis were rhinos and that they wanted
anti-Trump
those people kicked out of the party.
Yes. And then not only that, both sides got real nasty with each other.
Oh yeah.
Like viciously nasty. Like I have a friend, I won't name any names, but she had to go incognito, had to create a burner X account because she was being hounded by DeSantis supporters over something that she pointed out, a negative against DeSantis that he did during COVID. She was like, here's the information. This is what happened. I was here. I saw it happen. And they came after her, and she had to go dark on Twitter, on X. I keep calling it Twitter. On X.
It's always going to be Twitter.
I know it's always going to be Twitter in my mind. On X for a while, and then she basically created a burner account because she's like, they were harassing her.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? And so it got really ugly. And there was never been any reconciliation. There's never been any of that. It all just kind of settled because DeSantis withdrew from the race and Trump won. They had to. I mean, I know people who I don't know them personally. I know of people who probably didn't vote for Trump because they were so supportive of DeSantis, and there's all that drama there. Which, whatever. So now here we are, and there's still this angst in the two sides of the camp, and what we're seeing happen, what's shaken out is whoever these legislators are that got elected, they claim to be super MAGA, which is, I think, how they got elected in a lot of these super red counties, is they just put on their big MAGA hats, rah, rah, Trump, Trump, Siskumba, MAGA,
and
MAGA,
wouldn't
MAGA.
that be great? If you're in a red county, you just put an R behind your name, you don't have to do much work, and your candidate gets elected.
Yeah. Or you pull in dark money to win your primary, which is what happened, and pull all kinds of shenanigans in a lot of these heavy red counties to get someone elected who the party actually didn't support in the counties. And now our super Republican majority legislature is making all kinds of weird leftist decisions. And now they're not supporting. So now they're up against DeSantis. They're fighting with him at every moment. Instead of us saying, oh, we have a Republican governor, we have a Republican legislature, let's get some crap done to support the people of Florida. Everybody up there, DeSantis included, is still playing politics with the lives of Floridians, and it pisses me off.
Ooh, juicy.
I'm ticked. Because you know what? My life is not a political chess piece.
That's right.
And they are acting like it is. And it's just rageful.
Right. And you can really start to see how they're overreach. Like they are trying to overreach local so desperately. Like there was a bill that I caught very briefly. I apologize. I don't have all of the details. But there was a bill that was trying to abolish a city in the state. Claiming that there was corruption and everything. Didn't really give much information on it, the little clip that I saw, but it was like, all of a sudden there's this bill to basically, say that the city no longer exists, and they're pushing those type of things through the legislature. So it's very interesting how everything is kind of coming to a head very quickly without there really, like, I mean, I haven't heard much about, insurance.
Nope,
I haven't
nobody's
heard.
talking about insurance. You know what they're doing? Sales tax.
Yeah.
Sales taxes. They want to reduce our sales tax by 0.25%, right?
Yeah. 0.75.
0.75. So 0.75%. I'm sorry. What? First of all, who pays most of the sales taxes?
Visitors and tourists. And
Okay, so who's going to actually get the tax break?
They are.
Right. So how is this helping Floridians? We elected these people, and they're going up there and saying, let's give the tax break to the tourists.
Well, and also they want to reduce commercial rents. They want to the sales tax on commercial rents, which I'm definitely not opposed to. But also at the same time, like this is then, favoring businesses. They also wanted to reduce electricity tax. But the only people that pay that tax are businesses, so they get a discount. So it's very interesting when you kind of look at the breakdown of it. They come out with the big headlines. So it is what I'm noticing is the Republicans in Florida are doing the same things that Democrats do. They put up the headline like USAID is aid, for
US
other
aid.
countries. It's USAID, but then we find out that's really not what it is. So this is a sales tax cut, right? But then it doesn't necessarily, like, it's really going towards to help businesses and corporations and not us as
Morgan and Morgan. Their hands are so deep into this legislature, it's not even funny.
Oh God, yes.
It's not even
That's very
funny.
Yeah.
The ones that tried to pass the marijuana bill.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Their hands are deep into this body. I don't know which specific ones, which specific legislators, but they are
So
sorry.
So when you kind of start to break apart some of these bills, you start to see the holes and stuff in them. And then because we have a super majority, a lot of these things just get passed through.
The Republicans are scared because you know what happens? Happens if you go against the legislature. You get kicked out of the building. You get your office.
You lose your committee seat. You lose your office.
You lose your parking. So apparently they're fighting over parking spots.
Yeah.
They have 60 days to get shizzle done up there for the state of Florida that whatever they decide goes into and gets passed and signed by the governor goes into effect in July, October, and in January most of the times. So these decisions that they make now, they have 60 days to make a crap ton of decisions, and they're fighting over parking spots.
Plus pass a budget, don't forget.
Oh, yeah, pass, which, by the way, they added $5 million to last year's budget.
Yep.
Last year's budget, which was passed, signed, in effect, ready to done. Added money to last year's budget so that they could take it away from this year's budget to say they decreased the budget.
I didn't think of it that way, but
That's what they said.
Right.
I was like, that's like me going to my husband and saying, listen.
Well, that's what the stores do before they have their big sales.
Right.
Right. So they a few weeks before the sales, they increase the prices on everything. And then they're like, big blowout sale, 20% off,
Exactly.
30% off.
Exactly.
But really you're paying the same prices that you would have, a couple months
Playing
ago.
politics with our money, with our lives. They're not doing, I haven't seen anything that I've been like, yes, we need this passed. Fluoride, yes, fluoride is on its way.
Yes.
That's good. We'll see what happens there. Okay, here's a fun one. Ready? Carbon, you're going to have to look up this word because I actually don't even know how they're defining this word. How do you say that? Carbon sequestration. And I can read really big words. creates carbon sequestration task force adjunct to the DEP, requires task force to submit specific reports to Secretary of Environmental Protection, Governor, and Legislature, provides that participation in certain programs or activities is voluntary, requires certain frameworks or enforcement mechanisms to have explicit legislative approval. What the heck is that? What is that? How is that helping my insurance? Where's the insurance bill?
So what that means is it refers to the process of capturing and storing atmospheric carbon dioxide to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So this is a leftist.
So we're doing a Green New Deal?
This is climate change.
This is climate change. This is being passed by our Republican legislatures.
I'm telling you, these are a lot of Democrats that
put on their MAGA hat, and they got dark money sucked in from out of the state, and they got themselves elected, and now we're.
Yeah. And and it's very interesting because, like, on a Palm Beach County level, you know, it's like we saw, you know, one candidate in particular kind of do this. And so it's a very frustrating when everybody can just see everybody is now a label. It's not about self-governance. It's about what side of the Trump label are you on? And I've heard, like, you know, MAGA and MAGA Light and Rhino, like everybody just wants to have a label or to give people a label. And when the reality is we all really need to come together, and we need to make sure that our legislature, even at a very local level, even our cities, are working in our best interest and not for their own.
Okay, so could you, since I don't want to leave this screen, could you look up Representative Cross and see if it's a Republican or a Democrat who brought this bill forward? But it passed, so even if it was a Democrat who brought it forward, here's fun fact, it probably was.
It's a House rep, you said?
Yeah.
And
Cross.
What district do you know?
It doesn't say on the bill thing. I'd have to leave the screen. But
with a C or a K?
Cross. And then Ben Roach.
Well, you don't have your handy dandy book.
I know. I don't have my book with me. But here's the thing. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 people on the committee. Oh, it says total votes. 18 people on the committee, 15 yays, 2 nays, and 1 missed. So there's our supermajority. I recognize 2 of the names on here are Democrats, Skidmore and Tendrich. Esposito. I'm pretty sure that's no, I'm not thinking that's Democrat. I don't remember. Point being is it's getting favorable. And it literally says, why I filed this bill by Representative Cross. So the writer of this bill writes, this bill establishes a new multidisciplinary and interagency task force entrusted with developing the framework for a state-level carbon sequestration. It's such a weird
Democrat.
Word. It's a Democrat. So Democrat files literally says to the challenges posed by Florida by climate change will not be solved overnight, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is a Democrat who files the bill. Fine, file your bill. But why is it being recorded favorably with yes votes by a bunch of Republicans? Also, again, Democrat files this bill. But how is this helping us? This isn't doing anything. No diddly freaking squat. Gosh, Lee. All right, so there's another one I wanted to look up. You talk. Well, I looked this one up.
Well, I will say I'll go back to a couple candidates that have filed because this has been
that's right. I asked you to do that.
Yeah, pretty interesting. So state senators. So State Senate House 26. We've talked about that a little bit. So you have Yvette Drucker, who's City of Boca Raton councilwoman right now. So she's filed to run. Rick Roth, who was State Representative 94, who termed out. So now he's running for State Senate for 26. And then you have David Silvers that's also running in that seat. So you're going to have a primary between Drucker and Silvers. So that's going to be something that you want to watch.
That's in 80.
26.
Oh, State Senate.
State Senate,
Right.
26. And then as far as state house seats, you have Rob Long that has filed to run in State House 90, who's a Democrat.
Mm-hmm. He's a current Delray Beach commissioner.
Yep.
I think he's well liked, right?
I believe so as well.
I haven't seen a lot of crap about him online.
He doesn't get a lot of news, and that's usually a good thing when you're running for higher office. Usually it's, part of your resume and what his accomplishments are. Delray's been doing pretty good. So
except for the fluoride thing.
Well, except for the fluoride thing and the police thing.
And he was one of the deciding votes on that.
Yeah. So we'll see how that kind of turns out. So those were two things that I thought was very interesting. On a very local level, in the county races, County Commissioner District 2 has two Dems that have filed. Joe Casello, who was in District 90,
still is
for the state house.
Yeah, he's in his last term.
He's terming out, so he's running for county commission. And you have Joseph Peduzzi. I believe he is in West Palm Beach.
I think he was a West Palm Beach commissioner.
Yep. And then Commissioner Woodward has filed for re-election.
Anyone filed against her?
No. Commissioner Baxter has filed for re-election, and Roderick Clark has filed for Port of Palm Beach Group 4.
Go Roderick!
Has anyone filed against Baxter?
Nope.
Interesting.
So right now, the only thing is we have two Dems for District 2. More than likely, that's going to go to a Democrat. I don't see it's going to be really hard for a Republican to
that's a
win
very
in that
heavy
seat.
Democrat seat.
Right now? Oh, that's
Greg Royce. And he's going to be running for mayor of West Palm Beach.
Sorry, I'm just reading things on X. It's spicy. If you want some entertainment, follow us. I'm gonna just retweet things. I mean, you should follow the Florida Voice News, FL Voice News. They're constantly posting. Here's their daily update. Here we go. I'm bringing it to you live from the Florida's Voice. So these are some bill updates. A bill passed cracking down on the explicit book loophole in schools. Ooh, a bill passed through its first White House. I need a nap. First House committee stop Wednesday that could close a loophole in the law that has allowed school boards to vote and keep books with sexual content in school shelves. Check back here for full story. All right, good. Here we go. Reducing the sales tax rate. Sorry. I'm sorry. Nobody has given me a good reason to why this is happening. I've not seen one post by the legislators yet. And if you have a good reason why the sales tax should be reduced,
well, they just claim that it's going to put money back in Floridians' pockets, and to a point that's true. But
sure.
if you're living on a fixed income, you're not buying a whole lot of things that has sales tax
that's
on it
correct.
Anyway.
You're buying groceries,
right? Which has no sales tax.
And there are so many tax holidays that if you are paying attention, you can get sales tax free lots and lots of items. So speaking of which, hurricane season is coming up. 2 months away. June. So coming up. So usually the first 2 weeks of June is a sales tax holiday for hurricane supplies. Governor DeSantis has signed a lot of amazing bills into where there's a lot of tax holidays. And you look them up online. There's ones for sports, summer sports equipment. So camping supplies, kayaks, like anything that has to do with summer sports, goggles, all that fun stuff. There's ones for families, I believe, like diapers and stuff like that. I don't know. That one came into effect after all my kids were done, of course. But just like my husband's company introduced paternity leave, right, as I had my third kid, that went into effect January 1st, and our son was born December 21st. Say la vie.
Oops.
Yeah. His boss was great. She let him kind of screw around it, but still, I was like, are you kidding me? Anyway, that's the story of my life. So, so there's that sales tax holiday. The first week of August, there's all like clothes, shoes, back to school items, school supplies. So like if you pay attention to that, then you get no sales tax, and it's better because then because that's the other thing too is that really does impact Floridians because tourists are not buying flashlights.
Right. And DeSantis was very smart and really put Floridians first by making these during summer months when a lot of the tourists and the people that, only vacation here during wintertime aren't getting our tax breaks.
Right.
So
and again, it's not on things that they would normally buy here.
Right.
They're buying whatever else. But it's just, I just don't see the benefit. But anyway, to me, it goes back to my I feel like I have like these few rants that I keep going on because nothing changes. It goes back to them wanting to write onto their resume, cut taxes.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do.
And I think is what they realized is that it would be much easier to do a sales tax decrease than going back and trying to get rid of property taxes.
Oh, yeah, because they actually have to come up with real solutions to get rid of property taxes,
right.
And they don't have them that smart enough to have them.
And
Sorry.
I have a slight feeling, and I could be wrong, I have a slight feeling that there was a lot of municipalities and counties when they had suggested to do away with property tax, to lower property taxes.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
And they were I don't know.
I know everybody at the legislation delegation for Palm Beach County was up in arms, was like, no, we're fighting against this, because 23% of our, 22.4% or something of our ad valorem, or our budget comes from ad valorem taxes. So it's going to, and then they did come up with a solution too of having an additional $1,000, I think, of the homestead taxes.
See, there's ways to do that. That makes more sense to me. That would actually impact us, and it would push counties and cities to be maybe a little bit more fiscally responsible with the money that they're doing, and say, hey, we're capping what you're able to bring in because we need to put money back into the pockets of Floridians. So we'll do it this way. But there has to be real solutions, and I think you're right. I think they got pushback, and they were like, and the cities and counties literally were like, okay, so now what do we do? And they were like, we don't know, so we won't do it.
Yeah.
They're all, again, goes back to my original, my thing that I was ranting on a couple of episodes ago, where we see they don't ask the and then what question. And they're really, and a lot of times they're just like, this is going to look great for my reelection.
And then I'm always sitting here going, I cannot be the smartest person in the room to be able to realize how this is not going to work out.
This is not going to work so well. Well, unless then you go to the more not sinister, but the deeper level of okay, well, maybe they really do want to get rid of a lot of, going back to what happened last year with the Form 6 and stuff they really do want to get rid of a lot of the cities in the state, and they want the counties, they want us to be more dependent on the state government, which why are we electing Republicans then?
But also, the more I think about it, if they reduce the sales tax, then it gives an opening for your counties to steal that sales. I shouldn't say steal. To pass.
It's taxation.
So basically,
steal is okay word in my book.
So they will put forth a measure on the ballot to increase sales tax because it will be a one-off, because they'll be like, hey,
everyone's used to paying this anyway, and we can take an extra penny.
The state reduced it, so now we can increase, and you're going to find things of ways that, we'll fund transportation.
I mean, look, I would be okay with taking that 0.75% and giving it to the county to fund roads.
Yeah.
I would be okay with that personally. Yeah. If I'm already used to paying it, I'm already paying it. It's not really going to affect me a whole lot because I don't spend a lot of money on salesy stuff where I have to spend tax. Tax doesn't. I mean, on big ticket items, sure, but who's buying big ticket items in this economy that are not on a tax holiday? If I'm going to buy a kayak, I'm going to wait and buy it during the tax holiday. I've already, if we're going to go buy camping equipment, we wait to buy it during the tax holiday. We know. I just feel like they're putting they're putting Band-Aids on a paper cut, on a bullet wound.
Pretty much, yeah.
We're bleeding, big issues here, and they're like, oh, here you go, here's a Band-Aid. No, I need stitches.
Right. Exactly.
We need actual reform on insurance. We need actual real things to help us hit some of these issues. We need them to also just not do so much. Why are they all spinning their wheels creating laws?
You can go to the Senate and House of Representatives and not create bills. You can do that.
Okay, let's go back to see. All right.
And you can repeal bills and
Right.
make them better.
So let's see what we got. So this is the roundup. So that's that one. E-Verify expansion to include private businesses. A bill aimed at expanding the use of E-Verify in Florida to ensure that only individuals legally authorized to work in the United States are employed past the first House committee. That'll be interesting. I support that.
I like that bill.
Quality of care in nursing homes. This is really long. It is SB 170, strengthen safety and quality standards at nearly 700 licensed Florida nursing homes and facilities. Here are a few measures. It gives a whole list of things, so I'm not going to read all of it. But I do think I know that there's a lot of issues, and this is also a big issue here in Florida because we have so many of these homes. So, private homes that fail to submit audited financials, yeah, because they do steal a lot of money. I mean, I've heard. I shouldn't say they do. I'm going to get sued for libel. I've heard. Rumor on the street. Okay.
It is an issue.
It is an issue.
In Florida, that's for sure.
Let's see. Insurance research. We're going to research the problem. Wonder how much money they're spending on that. Okay. Here it is.
All of their insurance consultants.
SB 114 renames Florida State University's Catastrophic Storm Risk Management Center to the Florida Center for Excellence in Insurance and Risk Management, broadening its research and advisory role to encompass all aspects of Florida's insurance market and risk management, particularly in relation to policy development and accessibility. Wait a second. So instead of fixing insurance, they're renaming and giving more money to a university to do more research on insurance?
Because they can't solve the problem.
Thank you. This is what we elected you to do.
So this is how they can't solve the problem. They can't fix it. So this is how they push it down. They
look like they're, so if someone reads this, they're like, oh, they're doing something.
Right. It's a good point.
All right.
It's a very good point.
Tristan Murphy Act, Mental Health. SB 168 aims to add alternative pathways to prosecuting defendants with mental health illnesses. Okay. Sure. Benefits for firefighters injured during training. Provides that a firefighter, SB 1202, provides that a firefighter, their spouse, and dependent children can become eligible for family health insurance premium payments due to an injury that occurs during an official training exercise to which the firefighter became totally and permanently disabled. Okay. Entitles entities that boycott Israel. Okay. What it does. SB 1678 expands Florida's existing anti-boycott, divestment, and sanctions, or BDS law by including academic boycotts, mandating divestments from boycotting entities, requiring anti-discrimination certifications for arts grants, and restricting contracts with foreign educational institutions that boycott Israel. I support this because it's through public stuff. If they're doing this to private entities, I don't think that should happen at all. But being that this is public tax dollars, I agree with this, personally. Because we shouldn't be our tax dollars should not be used to support organizations that boycott one of our strongest allies, as well as the first country to drop all U.S. tariffs and say, you know what, America, send us your goods. We won't charge you anything. First one, just saying. So
that's phenomenal.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Now,
one.
if every other country would get on board.
Well, they'll do it just to spite Israel and be like, okay, term limits for local officials. We already have term limits.
Yeah, but a lot of counties don't. So this is at a county commission level, I believe, that it limits
for county
to
commissioners
8,
and school board.
to limit to 8.
I don't know how I feel about the state mandating that.
I go back and forth because, yes, you want term limits. You want the opportunity for people who have been there a long time that are totally just out in la la land. Mm-hmm. And is what happens is when people go to the ballot box, they vote based on recognition.
Mm-hmm. Good or bad.
So bad.
Sometimes I've been there where I'm like, oh, I know that name. Don't like that name. I don't know this person, but I'm voting for this person. They can't be as bad as that one.
Right.
Good and bad name recognition.
Right. So when, if they're top on the ticket, then they have they're favored to win. Their odds of winning are just way better. So they get to just be reelected over and over and over again.
Right.
This is like your Lois Frankels in CD22. This is,
Right.
I mean, we have some small municipalities that we have commissioners, councilmen that are in like their 80s and 90s and have like, that's how old they are, and they're still serving, and they've served their city council for 30 years. But then at the same time, nobody else wants to run.
Right.
So that's the problem that you get with,
That's the
and then
concern.
with the problem is that if we keep fueling politics in this way, nobody is going to want to represent, and then you're going to, and then Democrats are just going to win based on default, because you're not going to find a Republican that are going to want to run, especially in blue areas.
Yep.
Because they're going to be like, no, I get destroyed. My family gets destroyed. Like
By the party
my
and
businesses
by
gets
their opponent.
Exactly.
Because the party we eat our own.
Exactly. Well, we always eat our own first before we eat the enemy.
Yeah.
So then we have nothing left to even come close to defeating Democrats in November. And that's the problem. And this is one thing like our legislators should be working on, is changing our primaries to March.
Yes.
Would be huge, because then it would actually give Broward and Palm Beach County an opportunity to actually gain votes, because they're so busy focused on a primary.
That's 6 weeks before general election.
Especially in our Congress races, because they're so contentious. I mean, in CD22, we have Deb Ademi running. We have that Rod, what was his name that we just mentioned? I believe Dan
that's 20.
Or
Rod's running in 20.
In 20.
I'm sure Dan Francis is going to run
I
again.
believe that Dan Francis is running in 22. So we're going to have just a heated craziness.
Again, it's the definition of insanity.
And then Lois Frankel walks into the race, and she comes out in flying colors, because
smelling like roses.
Nobody wants to give her credit to what she does locally, and then combat her on her federal record, because people here in Palm Beach County do not know how she votes federally. They don't pay attention. And and this is the thing too, what a lot of people do not go on Facebook, go on Lois Frankel's page and find her posts and read the comments. And it's very interesting. This is what Palm Beach County residents really think and believe. They really think and believe that like we're like starving children in other countries because we cut off USAID. Like they really believe that. And so it's like you have Lois Frankel, like saying all of
stirring
these
all the
things
shizzles up
all the time.
Yeah.
And it's all propaganda. She has no proof. She doesn't give any evidence. She just
she plays on everyone's emotions, and the Republicans are too busy beating the crap out of each other to do anything about it.
Thank you, Lois, for being a strong voice for us. We just love you. Thank you. Thank you. Somebody needs to do something about him. Like they're just crying and whining. And then
that's why I don't go on Facebook.
Right. And then there was another post from I think it was Channel 25. And I should have shared it. I wish I would have. I don't even remember what the story was about, but it was something politically charged. And the comments about how like terrible Republicans were was off the charts. I'm talking hundreds of comments. These are local voting residents that feel this way because they're in their salons, they're in their nail salons, they're at their clubs, and all they listen to is CNN and MSNBC on loop.
Yeah.
They aren't going out and checking out, conservative podcasts and getting out information like they should.
You should share this with them. You should just blast us all over the place. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that.
Share our episodes on posts.
On posts. Oh gosh. Please don't do that. Maybe do that. I don't know.
But it's like
if it's relevant.
If we can't get a handle on the narrative, we've already lost.
Right.
And locally, we can never get a handle on the narrative, especially even at a state level because of what's going on at a state level.
Because they're all fighting with each other.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. So what? It's like what's happening here on the local level has just been exploded at the state level, which is okay. So term limits. Let's go back to these real quick. Term limits before I lose them. Joint resolution sponsor. Blah 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 blah. Okay. So those are that was the last one. So yeah, there's a Florida House bill passes to replace Gulf of Mexico with Gulf of America. I wonder how much that's going to cost us. I mean, I'm not against it, but how much is that going to cost?
Actually, from what I understand, it's very minimal.
Okay.
And so they're not going to make schools and stuff, they
could
could have
their maps.
Right, they could have. But is what they're doing is once like the textbooks have expired, then the new textbooks
must be required. Okay. All right.
Must be doing that.
I'll allow it.
So they're trying to make sure that it's very minimal cost on our end to be able to do that.
All right, here's one. A bill aiming to crack down on fraud and strengthen the collection of voter initiative petitions for constitutional amendments. Ooh, I like that. Good.
Yeah, because what happened is in 2024 when it came to Amendment 4.
3 and 4.
3 and 4, that they found out that there was a lot of fraudulent petitions signed.
Also, it's just I don't think you should be able to pay people to get petition signatures.
Well, the thing of it is that under this bill is that they are paid, they have to be trained.
Because I remember I had someone, which was creepy, and I almost pulled my pepper. I should have, if I had my pepper spray, then I would have pulled it. This guy approaches me in the parking lot in front of Marshall's. Really shady looking dude. Just like, not shady in like how he looked, but like his mannerisms. He was just like slinking around, and it was like, what is he doing? And he was like going through, and he came up to me, ma'am, would you like to sign blah, 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 blah. I was like, no, go away. Like, that's how people get their kids kidnapped. Like, someone comes up to them and is like, here, sign this while I steal your child. I'm like, no, get out of the parking lot. Like, coming up to a woman in the parking lot, like, with her children, like, no. Just no.
But they get paid usually per petition that they get
right.
signed.
And so I'm saying, like, that's not, like, that, to me, that should be like, no, don't do that. Like, that's not allowed. You have to be in front of, like, a store or at a place. You can't just, like, wander up to people in the parking lots. It's really creepy. That's how people get shot in Florida. I'm just saying.
So when I heard this bill, a couple things that I kind of liked was that if you are part of a petition organization, that you have to be trained, and then you are the ones that can submit the petitions. But if you're not trained, you can't be the one to submit the petition. So you can give the petition to somebody and say, hey, if you're interested, but then they have to do their due diligence. They have to fill it out, and they have to be the ones to send it in or take it into the supervisor of elections. So they can't, you
can't just come up to me and be like, here, sign this.
If you're not trained petition,
and it looks like background checked, which is good.
Right. That you have to be background checked and all of that kind of stuff. Those are the only people that are allowed to submit those petitions.
I like that. And so this also says it requires petition sponsors to post $1 million bond after 25% of the requisite number of signatures has been obtained.
Yeah. That's a great idea too.
So if it's a bond, that means that then they're guaranteeing that they're going to get the rest of the signatures.
Well, I think is that they're going to do it legally and above board, which means if they're found,
they forfeit the money.
Right.
Petition circulators must be a Florida resident and a U.S. citizen. I like that.
Registered voter.
Enhances the security of petition forms by requiring voters to include their driver's license, ID number, or the last 4 of their social. Like that. Requires petition forms for paid circulators to contain a barcode and a serial number for petitions to be turned in within 10 days of receipt.
Yep.
Petition requires supervisors to send digital versions of their petitions on a rolling basis to the Division of Elections. The bill prohibits the state government from expanding public funds for communications concerning constitutional amendments, because DeSantis did that. Use state funds to combat, right? Didn't he? To combat Amendment 4. Prohibits the state government from expending public funds for communications concerning constitutional amendments. So it would prohibit the government our state government
from taking a side,
from using money, state money, our tax, which I don't disagree with on principle.
Right, but I also give kudos to DeSantis for doing what he did because they had the narrative.
Yeah.
If he wouldn't have come out and said this isn't what they are saying about the state law in Florida is incorrect.
Right.
They are lying about what is currently legal in Florida.
Which is why I think they should add to this that no outside money outside of the state is allowed to come in. You're not allowed. Just like
That should be period.
That
with
should be
every
period.
race.
Yeah. Yeah. You mean like candidates?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like if I'm running for office and I call my
Somebody
sister
in
in Colorado and say, "Would you donate to me?" and she wants to donate to my campaign,
I know, but I don't want somebody from California dictating who gets a Congress seat in Florida
That's a good point.
or a House seat.
I'll have to mull that one over. Poll of the night. Feel like we're in a little disagreement. So, just, friendly poll.
Let us know.
Let us know. What do you think? How do you feel?
Should outside money be allowed in elections in Florida, period?
Outside of the state.
Yeah.
Outside of the state money, I'll be allowed to go to campaigns or amendment bills or anything like that. But amendments for sure.
Yeah.
To me, I'm good with amendments because it's not personal. Like I said, as far as because I've been a candidate, and if I call my family who live out of state and be like, they're not donating for me to represent the Florida, they're supporting me. So whereas an amendment, that's not personal. So
Right.
we'd like to hear what you have to say.
I also think businesses shouldn't be allowed to donate to candidates or anything either. I think
They don't.
right.
They just donate to PACs.
Yeah. That's
So
That's
sure.
a whole nother issue.
That's a whole other issue. If we have time, we can get into that one tonight. The dark money, PAC money.
Yeah.
Okay, so this
Which in turn, just so everybody knows, is how so many of our races are decided here in Palm Beach County. Is
Oh
through
yeah, PAC money. Please.
Yeah.
You can, because you're limited limits to donate to each candidate, and it's based off of their level. Everyone knows this, I'm sure. You have donation limits per entity, per person, or per business. But PACs are unlimited. So if you donate $1,000 to someone as a candidate, you can donate $10,000 to their PAC.
Yep.
And it's unlimited, and you just run with it.
Yep.
Apparently, Councilman Andy Thompson talked about how he didn't take any developers' money in his last race.
He didn't through his official campaign, but through his PAC, he probably did.
Mm-hmm. So then they can
But it
claim
doesn't
I didn't
count.
take any. My campaign didn't receive any. My campaign account did not receive any.
Did I hear that he officially filed to run?
I heard that, but can you look it up since you have the handy dandy laptop there?
Mm-hmm.
Please. But I want to get to some Boca stuff. Okay, so let me finish this. So this, back to the amendment petitions. The proposal makes it a third-degree felony to fill in missing information on a petition, to violate. Sorry, getting notifications on and stuff. Or to violate the petition circulator. Wow, I can read registration requirements. Circulator. Sheesh. The bill sponsor made 2 amendments. One amendment clarifies that the cost of the required criminal background check for the petition must be covered by either the petition sponsor or the applicant and not by taxpayers. Good. The other amendment changes the information that supervisors of elections are required to include on notification forms sent to voters whose petition signatures have been confirmed as valid. I like that.
Yeah, but then you're going to see your supervisor of elections all needing more money because they're having to do petition collection and verifying.
Yep.
No, that is not true. No.
So you're complaining about supervisor of election budgets now.
They're gonna wait.
They're gonna say, "Hey, we're gonna, if there's amendments on the ballot, we're gonna need, X number more employees to be able to process them."
Yup.
And then what do they do when they're not valid? Does it have to go right? Does it have to go to the board?
These are questions.
So that's when we go in. What is it? June or July, when they're passing everything, or at the end when that's
we go
when
in
we go
September and
complain.
we go yell at them.
When they're already it's done.
We go in September.
We
We go
go
yell at
then,
them.
right,
No,
to complain about it?
We go after the budget's already
That's what
been
I'm
passed
saying.
and complain
That's
about
what
it.
I'm saying.
Right.
When we pass it,
Once
then
they
complain about
post the budget, then they're like, "Wait a minute,
Wait.
Let's
what
not
happened
complain
here?"
in January,
Like
February,
now.
March.
Now.
when we can,
Complain
and
now.
It's the smart thing to do.
Yes.
All right, so This is a fun fact. What they're saying. During the House debate Thursday, multiple Democratic members spoke in opposition to the bill. Shocker. Including Rep. Anna Eskamani, who said the bill is not about integrity or transparency. It's about control. It's about making it harder for the people of this state to challenge the status quo, to pass initiatives like environmental protection, middle wage, defending abortion rights, and reforming cannabis laws. Ma'am, those things didn't pass.
So this is the thing, is it's like we had the term limits in Boca. And there was maybe 20 of us all together that kind of helped defeat that initiative.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's like, that doesn't quite hold water to me because it's like,
This is about the petitions, not the term limits.
No, I know. But like, it doesn't take that much to get
Oh, I see
involved
what you're
to
saying.
either
Yeah.
pass something or to defeat it. So, like,
Putting restrictions on creepy people coming
is
up to
what
you in the
I'm-
parking lot to get your signature.
is what I'm really noticing is our state legislature in Florida, but also like on a federal level, I'm noticing that a lot of Democrats in office really think that their constituents are destitute and they don't know anything. They have no information.
A lot of them all.
I don't think that that's true. But
I know.
I mean, it's like they're like they can't get IDs. They can't get driver's license.
They can't get computers.
Right. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
But they can
Like-
go to the local store and buy alcohol. With
Or
an ID.
cigarettes or
Get on a plane.
Right. Like I'm like, really? Like you're telling me like so please find me somebody who doesn't have a driver's license because they don't know how to get it or
They
that
don't know how
they
to go to
can't.
the DMV.
But they can register to vote, but they don't want a driver's license to vote. So they have to be able to register to vote to vote, but they can't have a. But
I
making
know you
them
are preaching to the
have
choir,
a
my friend.
driver's license is just too much. And I'm like, but they registered to vote. So if they were capable,
Or did they?
exactly.
Oh, dun, dun, dun.
Exactly. Like that's my whole point. Is I'm like, okay, you're saying that old people and that, destitute people can't get a driver's license, but they registered to vote. Just let that I'm leaving that there.
I was just going to let that one marinate around for us. Okay, so the Republicans said they commended the bill sponsor for her effort and homework that she put into it to drive the debate. Quote, the Constitution shouldn't be easy to change. Correct. I
That's
don't
right.
even think we should be able to change it. Honestly, when that whole amendment crap popped up, I was like, I don't know why we have the ability to just write amendments into our Constitution. I don't understand that. But the Constitution it's legislated, anyway. That's a conversation for another time. The Constitution shouldn't be easy to change, and it's been changed 146 times. I don't think the founders of the Constitution thought it would be a corporate-driven or money-driven. It takes 8% of the presidential electorate to get a constitutional amendment on the ballot. That's one way to do it. 891,523 petitions. That's a lot, and it shouldn't be easy. All right. So the bill passed favorably, 76-31. The Senate bill has 3 committee stops. If approved, both by the legislative bodies, the bill will take effect upon approval of the governor. Interesting.
So it's very interesting. Senate Bill 1260.
Okay.
County constitutional officers' budget processes. The Senate Community Affairs Committee advanced Senate Bill 1260 this week, which creates a process of the clerk of circuit of courts or the supervisor of elections to appeal his or her budget to the administrative commission in the same manner currently provided by sheriff budgets. So they basically want to circumvent their county commissions or whoever helps, compile their budgets and be able to do away with the local level and appeal directly to the governor to get their budgets passed. The bill has 2 more committees of reference, and the House companion bill just has 1 more committee stop.
Okay.
So this is well on its way.
So it's another example of them trying to encroach on home rule.
But it's also probably because supervisor of elections and clerks.
Unfunded mandates.
Well, yes, but it's also that they probably are getting pushback from their counties and everything about their budgets. It concerned them about election fraud and everything else. I mean, that happened in Palm Beach County. They wanted the commission to veto, the supervisor of elections budget last year.
How
So
would that have worked exactly? How would we have run elections?
It couldn't have worked because we don't have line item veto. Like it's
right. It's chunk or not.
Right. And the commission doesn't determine the supervisor of elections budget nor the sheriffs. They basically just say like this, we all have to share this big pie. What portion do you want? And is it comparable to the other constitutional officers and the overall budget? But it was like, if you did a cut, you would have to do a cut across the board. So it's like the county commission would have to say like, we want to cut 10% from the budget. And then every department, including your constitutional officers, would have to cut 10%.
Interesting. So if this passes, it would, I'm going to guess a lot of it has to do with the unfunded mandates. And so the supervisor of elections are receiving laws that are passed and signed by the legislature and governor, or passed by the legislature, signed by the governor. And then they're saying, you need to do these things. And they're like, okay, well, I need more money to do these things. And the counties are going, sorry, no money for you.
Well, 2 examples of this in Palm Beach County was that they changed the drop-off ballots to ballot intake boxes or something. They
have to be guarded.
Right. They changed the name of it. So then there was all of this stuff that had to go out with changing the name of what the drop-off box was called.
Right.
And then they had to not only hire one, but they had to hire 2 people for every early voting location that was allowed to have drop-off ballots, because you couldn't leave it unattended from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Right. So if you had an election worker that needed to use the restroom or something else, they had to have a second person there to be able to be part of it. So it doubled the amount of people that the supervisor of elections needed. And then just so happened in Palm Beach County, our supervisor of election office moved. Mm-hmm. So and there was a little bit of a transition. So like they couldn't bulk order ballots and envelopes and everything like they had done in years past to save on costs. So those just basic costs of envelopes and paper and all of that kind of stuff went up drastically. And that was really no fault of the supervisor. Those were 3 things right there. That's not necessarily any fault of the supervisor of elections.
And if the county would have told her no, what is she supposed to do?
Right. Exactly.
Cut. I think that's the last place you want to see money cut. All right. So what's today? Is today the 3rd?
Today is
okay. So I have another list. Oh, see, these are the bills that I was looking at before were from, I think, the House floor. So these are the bills to watch from the Florida Voice News on the Senate floor. So peer support for first responders heads to governor. So what this is SB 86 expands the definition of first responder to include crime scene and evidence support personnel, granting them access to confidential peer support services similar to those provided to traditional first responders like police officers and firefighters. I'm actually super curious what like firefighters and police officers say about this. So if anyone fits that bill and they'd like to comment, I'm curious. I don't really know a lot about that. So curious your words.
So real quick on that one. So it passed the House the 3 and it passed the Senate the 3. So that's why it's going to the governor.
I don't know. It says heads to governor. Next steps, the Senate bill passed through 37. Oh, yeah, having already cleared the House. It's already cleared the House. It's been passed unanimously, so I guess it's a bipartisan bill. Yes, Danny Burgess is carrying the Senate bill, and Rep. Randy Maggard carried the House bill, so its companion bill is HB 421. Keep in mind, quick reminder for anyone who's new to the game, you have to have a bill in the House and a companion bill in the Senate, or vice versa, whatever's going first. That matches and passes all 3 committees and then into the chamber floor before a bill can go to the governor. So it has to have both houses, all the committees, the governing body, and then it goes to the governor's desk to sign. And then
so
there's
basically 6.
Yeah, it has to pass 6 committees. It goes through 8 votes because it has to pass the 6 committees, and then it has to pass on the floor.
Then the House and the
Right.
Senate. Yeah.
And so what's really interesting too about how bills are passed that a lot of people don't understand is that it's like the first reading of the bill is really just a draft.
Mm-hmm.
So as it goes through the committees, that's when things are like lined
Amendments.
up. Yeah, they get to add their amendments. They get to cross things out. So it's like you can hear a bill. This actually happened with Senate Bill 1414, the election bill.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people were really upset that, like vote no on this bill. And like to the logical aspects of it, like that makes sense because there were some red flags and I don't remember what they were off the top of my head. But, like vote no, vote no, vote no. But then the bill dies. If it doesn't pass one of its committees, it's dead in the water. It doesn't go anywhere.
Has to wait and be refiled the next year.
Right. So then it's like, so do you not want to work on election integrity? Like this is your opportunity, like to be able to voice like what's wrong with it, and then also highlight the things that are good about it, and then work through who's on the committee. So it's not, you don't have to call everybody in the state the state house or the state senate about it, but you can find out who's on those committees, and then you send an email saying, hey, I have concerns about this line. I have a concern, like it should word like this, like this is a concern here. First of all, what I've really realized with going to Palm Beach County Days, twice, 2 times now, is our representatives love hearing those type of things because good ones anyway, are the first ones to admit, like, I don't have all the answers. So we need input from our residents to find out, like what works and what doesn't.
Fix the insurance.
Right.
Quick question. Now, so if a bill, say, passes in the Senate, but dies like the third one in the House, it's dead.
Dead in the water.
It's gotta pass.
So it's, even if it's passed in the Senate, it doesn't pass.
Correct.
Because it didn't pass in the House.
Which is
Right.
why you don't have to pass so many bills. Stop working so hard to pass so many bills and repeal some. Yes. Should I keep going?
Yep.
Are you good? Okay. I didn't want to interrupt. All right. So that's that one. This is SB 166, cuts the red tape and the support for public schools. Let's see what this says. Reduces bureaucracy and helps level the playing field for neighborhood schools, expands flexibility for highly skilled teachers, streamlines how districts may recruit, hire, manage, pay, and evaluate teachers, advances efficiency for school board administrative processes, and simplifies financial requirements and more. Is this the bill that Paige Lewis was talking about?
Who's it by?
Corey Simon?
No.
Okay.
No, it was the one.
I'm really
Schneider-
curious on.
Yeah,
I'm
the
gonna
bill
look at
she
this one.
was John
Snyder.
Oh, and that's the House. He's
Yeah.
in the House.
Yep.
So this is. I'm
But
gonna
I
write
don't
could
know.
be
It
the
could be the
companion.
The
Senate
companion
It
bill.
could be the Senate companion bill. Yeah.
I'm gonna look this one up. I'm just reading through what's on things. So I haven't researched all of these, obviously. So I'm just really curious what this means. Because, yeah, expands flexibility for highly skilled teachers. I don't know.
I thought it was something different. I don't think it was had to do with teachers and stuff. I think it had to do with
Education standards. I think.
education standards
Yeah.
and something with I can't remember.
Okay. So here's an interesting one. Geoengineering and weather modification activities. So SB 56 prohibits geoengineering and weather modification activities. The bill passed 28-9 while the House companion bill is still making its way through the process. So I have not had a chance, because when I want to look at it, it's SB 56, to read through it all. I've skimmed some stuff about it. I've seen some posts on X where they're saying that the bill is being gutted and it's going to be a shell of a bill. Again, going through that process where they're pulling things out and stuff, and they're saying it's not actually as good as it could be, as it was proposed to be. There's a full story, so I'm going to click on that in a minute. Let's see what else there is here before I go back to that. So that's
Is there a
SB.
House bill, a companion bill with that?
It says the House companion bill. It doesn't have the bill number. Hold on one second. I'm actually going to go ahead and click on it. The House version is in HB 477. All right, so here it is. I'll just go ahead and let's go into it. Florida Senate lawmakers passed this so far, which would bar geoengineering, blah, blah, blah. The legislation bans the release or injection of chemicals into the atmosphere for the purpose of modifying weather, temperature, or climate. Wait a minute. I thought that was a conspiracy theory.
Dun, dun, dun.
What? Can we put this in the we were right box?
No,
Why?
because they won't let us.
They're going to still call it a conspiracy theory.
Exactly.
What does that mean? Okay, so it prohibits any injection, blah, 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 to alter weather patterns or sunlight. These activities, look, okay, whatever, call me a conspiracy theorist. During spring break, there were a couple of days where the weather was absolutely beautiful. It was phenomenal. One day I look up, I haven't seen any lines in the sky in a long time. I look up
neither.
lines in the sky. The next day, for days, clouds, rainy, wind,
right. I noticed
funky
it too.
weather, insane lightning storms, like my kid was going to bed the other night. This was a couple nights ago.
Yeah.
And she's like, Mom, there's lights flashing outside. I'm scared. And I was like, well, lights are flashing. So I look and I was like, it's probably lightning. Go look outside. I brought them all outside to watch it. I mean, lightning storms are not uncommon here, but this was one, I've never seen anything like this before. You could see the streaks. Like it went on for a while. It was like going for like 15, 20 minutes, this lightning storm. Just constant lightning. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like it. And yeah, so that happened. So I'm just going to say, I was like, it seems odd to me that the weather's beautiful for days and then there's streaks all over the sky. And then for days after that, it was cloudy and windy and funky, weird weather. Just saying. Just asking questions. Right? Isn't that what they say?
Right.
Okay, so these activities would be considered a third-degree felony, punishable by up to 5 years in prison and fines. My question is this. Who's doing it? If they are doing weather modification, who's doing the weather modification? So who are they fining?
Right?
Like, isn't it the government doing weather? Okay, again, let's go with the premise that if they're putting a bill out there, then it's happening, in theory, right? If it's happening, who's supporting it? Do they think like private companies are just like up in the sky, like seeding the clouds? Is that how that works?
I think that's how it works.
Private companies are doing it?
I would
Mother effers.
I'm
Bill Gates?
Sure.
Is it Bill Gates? Are we going to be prohibiting Bill Gates from doing stuff?
We should. I mean, he should be just barred from stepping outside of his home at this point.
We're tap dancing around our conspiracy theories. Okay. So the House version was amended Wednesday, cutting the bill down from 10 pages to a single page. That's why they're saying they gutted it. So Senator Elena Garcia sponsored the bill, said the legislation addresses environmental concerns by Floridians, has the support of the state Senate president. Currently, there are no systems in place. So she says, through this bill, we are addressing modern environmental concerns brought forward by our constituents and eliminating any ambiguity regarding the legality of weather modification. Okay. She says in her statement, currently, there is no system in place to track reports and concerns our residents have regarding geoengineering and weather modification. The bill creates a system to log, track, investigate, and mitigate if necessary, so residents can separate fact from fiction and have better understanding of what is happening in their communities. I like that. Goes back to now I can be like, excuse me, is there anything going on? And they can say no. Like, bull, but okay. I have heard the conspiracy theories out there, but the fact is we should not be shutting down legitimate concerns. Healthy skepticism is important, Albatron said. He's the Senate president. People have a right to know what is happening. There's a lot we don't know in this field of science, and people are rightfully concerned. Abso-freaking-lutely. Just call us all conspiracy nuts, and therefore nobody does any research to actually find out the information. This bill goes a long way to bring peace of mind to our citizens so they can report what they are seeing and we can make sure it is lawful activity, not geoengineering or weather modification, he said. Oh, they're just going to say it's lawful. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Bull crap.
Oh, no, it's good.
It's good. It's good. That's normal. It's normal for there to be lines in the sky and then have crazy weather a day later. Sorry.
They should have to, like, there should be like a website or something where it's like if they do have something that leaves some type of chemical trail,
yes,
that they have to list what it is.
I would like to know. I just want to know.
And what their flight pattern is.
Yes, I'd like that. That should be part of this bill. It should be like a tracking thing. Listen, we have lots of good ideas. If someone wants to get this to the Senate president, we'd appreciate it. Just ignore the trash talking from earlier and take our good ideas. In closing, the bill creates a system through the Department of Environmental Protection where Florida residents can report suspected geoengineering activities via email. It passed the full Senate floor, while the House bill is one more committee stop before it heads to the governor. Governor DeSantis has expressed support for the bill, the Senate's version of the bill. He doesn't like the cutting of the bill. All right. More? Keep going? This is fun. Sorry, is this boring?
Getting lots of education.
I know. There's a lot out there. I'm telling you, Florida Voice News, they do some pretty good reporting. They're mildly biased towards the Senate, towards the supermajority. So they don't criticize the supermajority a lot, which we should always be critical. Listen, I heard someone say today in a podcast, elected officials should always be slightly afraid of the public.
I agree.
So if our supermajority is not slightly afraid of us, we're doing our jobs wrong as the government, because we are the government. Okay.
Yeah, if they're not doing things they should be afraid to come.
I don't mean afraid, afraid for their life, no threats or anything, but as far as for their positions,
they should be concerned about being held accountable in the public eye.
Exactly. All right. Criminal offense is against law enforcement officers and other personnel. So SB 234 amends the law to require a mandatory life sentence without parole for individuals convicted of manslaughter against a law enforcement officer. It passed unanimously. Okay. So, the Democrats are not pushing back on that one. Annexing state-owned lands. Ooh, what is this? The bill amends the procedure for municipal annexation to require a municipality to notify each member of the local legislative delegation prior to the first public hearing on a proposal to annex state-owned lands.
Oh, that's state-owned.
State-owned. I don't think we don't have a lot of that here in Palm Beach County. All right, these are on the House floor. So
we don't have a lot of land. Period.
No, there's not a lot of land. Fentanyl awareness. Designates August 21st as Fentanyl Awareness and Education Day. That's brought forward by our representative, Ann Gerwig, here in Palm Beach County.
Go Ann.
It passed 106-0. Nice. Emergency opioid antagonists. Authorizes public schools and Florida college system institutions and state universities to purchase FDA-approved emergency antagonist drugs in addition to, I can't pronounce this word. I can't. Naloxone, which is the Narcan, I think. I think Narcan is the abbreviation for that. Correct me if I'm wrong, because this is not my area of expertise.
That sounds correct.
For the treatment of students experiencing an opioid overdose, passing at 100%, 107-0. Nice. The Gulf of America, as we just said. Cracking down on ballot initiative fraud. We talked about that one. Yeah, those are the bills to watch. So, like I said, highly recommend following Florida Voice News on X, or even better, you can follow us on X and interact with us to increase our visibility. We'd really appreciate it. And we repost and comment on a lot of the things that are brought forward. So definitely make sure that you are following us on X at We The Locals FL. Right? Isn't that our handle? Yeah, We The Locals FL. That's what I got. That's a lot of information. Awesome. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm just droning on and on.
There was a big... did this go anywhere? Senate Bill 92. That was the motor vehicle safety bill that Gruters did that was about having license plates on both sides.
Oh.
The front and the back. I believe that... let's see...
Here, let's see. Here.
Because I know there was a lot of pushback on that bill.
Let's see. It was filed. It was put into the Appropriations Committee on Agriculture, Environment, and General Government and read for the first time.
Okay. Sorry, I was asking Stu for something, but it was right next to me.
You reached in there.
It's on its way to passing.
But I believe that he line item, he crossed out the fact of having
amendments.
License plates on both the front and back of the bill.
It says amendment, delete everything after. Hold on, let's see, format. This is so hard to do on my phone.
Because that would have
I can't
increased
read this.
registration. That would have
This is
increased
tiny,
tax.
Okay, every vehicle at all times while driven, stopped, or parked must instead of shall. I wonder what the difference between must and shall.
Must is that, well, I would say that there's no wiggle room.
Because they put in must and crossed out shall. Be licensed in the name of the owner thereof in accordance with the laws of the state. Yeah, they crossed out for front and registration license plates on truck, tractors, and exempts display of license plates describing for registration on the rear. No, wait, hold on. Except as otherwise provided, which exempts display of license plates on described former military vehicles. Display a license plate on the rear and front of the vehicle. Yeah, it still has it.
Is it determined by the class of vehicle?
Each to be securely fastened on the vehicle outside the main body, no higher than 60, blah, 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 blah.
Because that would...
all the letters and numerals, alphanumeric designation must be clear, distinct and free from defacement, mutilation, grease, and other obscuring matters. Letters... It doesn't.
Because it's supposed to be about that, like, to avoid hit and run issues. So, like, if somebody hits and runs a vehicle, they just they get their car fixed and they don't have any proof or of anything. So repair shops are then supposed to make a record if they repair damaged vehicles. The dual license plate
is going to go to our insurance company, isn't it?
Well, no, it's more about the fact that it's going to increase registration of your vehicle, because instead of one license plate, you're going to need
but
two.
If a body shop has to report it, they're reporting it, and then what are they going to do with that information?
Well, I think I believe it goes into a database. So then that way, if anybody looks up that it becomes more like public record. I don't want to say like anybody could get that information, but there's a record trail that, yes, this car was this VIN number, had this damage, and this was repaired on this date.
Yeah. And
that's to prevent hit and runs by getting away with hit and runs, because there's no... And then the dual license plate is because there's cameras everywhere, that if they're fleeing the scene, there becomes then better odds of finding out what vehicle caused the hit and run.
According to these tracking, this is fastdemocracy.com, which they offer bill tracking. I'm going to sign up for this.
But it also penalizes the repair shops if they don't do it. So then it's an unfunded mandate by saying you have to have this software, you have to do this, you have to,
Stop it! Just leave us alone!
It provides criminal penalties.
To the little body shop down the street that's just trying to fix your car.
Yep.
Freaking A, man. Okay, sorry. Key amendments include the replacement of shall with must in various sections to emphasize compliance, and the addition of specific items that must be included in written repair estimates, such as the vehicle identification number and a detailed description of the customer's problem. The bill also reenacts several sections of Florida statutes to incorporate these changes, ensuring consistency across related laws.
But now that you bring up car insurance, that's very interesting, because what's going to happen is how many people get into an accident and then they pay for it themselves because they don't want to turn it into their insurance.
And now their rates just jacked up over a
now,
little fender bender.
And now the insurance actually may be able to search those records.
That's what I want to know. Who's going to be able to get to these records?
To find out if you actually...
It's an and then what question, legislators?
That's a really good point, Josie, because what if, you know, the insurance finds out that you had a slight fender bender, you fixed it yourself and didn't turn it into the insurance?
Guess who sponsored this one? Grooters.
That's interesting.
Who's running?
As
needs money.
CFO.
It needs money.
Yeah.
I wonder who has lots and lots of money that they'd like to donate to elected officials.
This is a perfect example of, like, I think that the basis of the bill comes from a good, genuine place. Like, I get the premise of the bill.
Yes, because we have a lot of uninsured drivers and we have a lot of problems with that.
Correct. But then it's like, are we really examining the and then what? And how does that affect the good law-abiding citizen that maybe accidentally backed into a pole,
Yeah.
That's like, oh, crap, like $500, $800, $1,000 to fix, which most people may have $1,000 deductible. So I'm not going to turn this into my insurance. I'm just going to take care of it. But then the insurance comes along and says, "Oh, you actually had an accident.
So now we're going to jack your rates up.
So we're going to ding you because next time, we're probably going to fit the bill."
Yeah, this is a serious question. I have this question. Yeah. I might have to call their office and ask this question because this is a problem.
Yeah. So these are the things, and it's like, so each state representative and each senator can bring 7 bills per session.
7.
So it's like, if you're doing 7 bills in 60 days, like, that's a lot to, like, kind of go through and to figure out, like, what's the repercussions of this bill.
Maybe they should pass a bill to limit their amount of bills.
I mean, I'm definitely for that because it's like
they should be able to do 3.
I was going to say 5, but
no, 3.
You're less
pick
generous
your
than
most
me. Pick your top 3.
Your top 3. Pick the 3 most important things to your constituents and work on those and give them good effort and good research and good understanding and time. Because on top of that, they also have to pass a budget.
Yep.
And so they're also fighting for appropriation. So in 60 days, they have to try to pass 7 bills. Advocate for their bills.
Each
one of them.
Each one of them.
So no wonder these bills get gutted because they're just like, I don't care. Just cross all this out in here. I'll vote if you take all this out.
Yep.
Nobody's paying attention. This is like the Wild West. How do we expect them to do a good job?
And when you listen to these committee meetings and stuff, that's exactly kind of what happens. It's like, okay, Senator, if you want that out of the bill, like if you're willing to advance the bill, if I cut that out, I'll cut it out for you.
And that's how we get all these crappy bills. And then guess what happens? Next session, they spend half the session going and fixing loopholes in the bills that they passed from the session before. It's a freaking waste of time.
Where if we really did limit the amount of bills and made it where it was very
we should get that as a constitutional amendment.
Oh, let's start a petition. Let's start a petition drive.
I can't add any more things to my plate, but if someone else out there would like to do that, I will sign that petition. That would be the way to do it, is a petition. And I think if we put it to voters and we said the representatives have 60 days to pass any legislation and a balanced budget, and there are X amount of representatives, there are X amount of senators, that's X equals the potential for X amount of bills. I'm not doing the math because I can't right now.
Well, the only thing, so the loophole, the problem with that, not the loophole.
No, but let's ask the end then what question.
Right. So the problem with that is you have to have a corresponding Senate and House bill. That's the problem with that. So then if you have a good House bill, then you have to convince a senator to not do one of their bills and sign on to yours.
They would have to submit their own. That becomes one of their 3.
Correct.
I'm fine with that. You know why? Because it'll reduce the amount of crap that they send down on top of us.
And then I think you'll get a stronghold where nothing will pass. Because
oh, no. Oh, no. accept a budget. All they are legally required to do by our Constitution is pass a budget.
A balanced
budget. That's all they are required to do. And so they go up there and they play like the Wild Wild West of bills with flurry of activity for 60 days.
How can we take away more freedoms today?
What else can we do to oppress the Floridians? What else can we do to support tourists instead of the actual taxpayers and voters who sent us here? Oh, we don't know what to do with property taxes. Okay, then we'll take away sales taxes. Nobody asked for that. Like, nobody asked for that. Literally, if you go on X and you read all of the comments, every single person, there's a unification there of everybody going, what? Nobody asked for this.
Right?
Like, nobody. It's like literally like they're like, I would like ice cream for dinner. The best I can do is some broccoli. Like,
Huh?
It's like not even in the same
it's
field.
not even like, no.
the same food category.
No. Oh.
What if you don't like broccoli?
Exactly.
Doesn't matter. You will eat it.
Look, let me say
No
this.
ice cream for you.
I will say this. I do appreciate the hard work that a lot of our legislators do up there. I know there are a lot of hardworking ones. I know there are a lot of people who do care about their districts, who are trying to do the best that they can to represent
They
their districts.
mean well.
And they mean well. My issue, and so I commend anybody who decides to run and do all of these things. I don't think I would want to do that, honestly. The thing is, no, I like being a commentator. I like being an armchair quarterback. I don't need to throw any balls. The thing is that we just reading through, there are some things that I like on what they're doing on these lists. They are doing things, but like, again, why is there so much? I just feel like it's so much. And I feel like what they're doing is they're just taking this big giant ball of spaghetti and launching it against the wall so that we have to go and climb through and find the noodles that are stuck while they are over here, like, I don't know, doing something else.
It makes it really hard for those that want to pay attention.
Exactly.
And
I'm
be
like, look at this list for me to try to follow.
to be able to get involved. And then some of these bills, they happen so quickly that then it's like you don't even have a chance to absorb it, think about it, and respond. So if we're thinking that way, imagine what the representatives and senators are thinking. You know, because it's like I haven't even had a chance to kind of like review this bill, or a lot of times
the title looks good. Let's go.
Or this is what happens, and this is how you get an administrative state, is that you rely on the administrative staff. So then is what happens is that you have organizations that get people to be the staff members of representatives and senators to push forth their agendas. And then they say, oh, it's a constituent problem, it's a county problem, you know, like this is, you know, when really it's somebody behind them pulling the strings to get it to the top of the list of the representatives or senators, you know, list.
Exactly.
And that happens a lot. You know, that's where the lobbyists, you know, kind of come into play. They get to know the staffers and all of that kind of stuff.
By the way, FYI, if you are, just kind of fun fact, if you are looking at bills, I'm going to go find the bills that I was looking at before. I know we need to
and
start
Andy
wrapping up.
Thompson did officially file to run for mayor of Boynton.
Watch your mouth.
Of Boca Raton.
Oh boy, buckle up, ladies and gentlemen.
Bernie Corn.
Oh, Andy versus Bernie.
For mayor.
Okay, so if you I'm on FL House, I'm going to come back to that in a second, but flhouse.gov and you're looking at bills, when you look at a bill, on the first page of the bill that gives you all the different things you can look at, it says lobbyist disclosure information. Always a good idea to check on that and see who is supporting this.
But if they do it through a staffer, they don't have to.
That's correct. But this one says lobbyist. Oh, yep. Principal Florida Association of Counties. This is for which one is this bill? I think this is the environmental bill. So lobbyist Jess McCarty from Miami-Dade County. And then lobbyist Jared Grigas so the county, Miami-Dade County, as a county is the lobbyist, which we are our own lobbyists.
Yeah.
And then Florida Association of Counties is the other lobbyist. So it's, interesting to look at that when you're looking at a bill, to see what and whose interest is coming forward into that,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, that was, wait, I'm sorry. I read the wrong lobbyist. Wrong bill.
Oh, come on.
Shh, Stu.
It also looks like that the bills for homestead exemption increases has stalled. So this could be why they're looking to push the sales tax one even more, because they can't get consensus to be able to pass it through committees.
Wait, which one?
The one about increasing the homestead property exemptions from 25 to 75,000.
Because they want to be able to put the feather in their cap when it comes to re-election that they lowered taxes.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
But at the end of the day, it's not moving through committees, and I have a feeling because municipal lobbyists are,
Pushing back.
like the counties, and they're like, what are you gonna do?
Right, and I don't think I don't know. Maybe I have a rose-colored view of some of these municipalities and counties where they're like, we would love to lower this, but we need some solutions.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Instead of just saying flat out no, it's what are you? Okay, so what's the plan?
Right.
When there's no plan.
It's like
my people fail for a lack of vision.
We're just, Palm Beach County has over $1 trillion in property value. It's about 22.4 something % of our overall budget. So it's definitely a big chunk, and that goes to our safety.
Yeah, police and fire. Because again, I think we mentioned this on our last episode when we were talking about property taxes. The state mandates how counties can use taxes that are brought in. So there's different types of taxes. We've got bed taxes. So if you stay in a hotel or Airbnb or whatever, that bed tax goes to the county. The tax goes to the county for bed taxes, and that can only be used for certain things. It can be used for sports, like bringing sports here to provide more entertainment and more revenue. It can be used for, I believe, tourism.
Yep.
The Tourism Council can use it. Or have access to it. So like
the Cultural Council.
The Cultural Council.
Yeah.
That's the one, not the Tourism Council. The Cultural Council. So culture, tourism, sports, things like that. That's what the bed tax, which makes sense because the people who spend the money in the hotels oftentimes are coming for those things. They're coming to watch a sports
which
game.
Which is so silly to me. We have such an influx of visitors and everything here, and then to make it that we can only then provide services for them.
Yeah.
So we're not really getting those sales tax from the tourists.
So the county gets the money, but they are limited on what they can do with it. So when we look at the budget, and I say this over and over again because I keep getting this same question from the same people. Oh, well, what would the county do if 23% would they cut from their budget? Well, obviously they would, but they're going to be like, okay, well, how do we fund police and fire? Because they can only be funded, as far as I know. If anybody knows anything more about that than me, please let us know. But from our research, they can only be funded through the ad valorem taxes of the people, because you pay for, that's the whole, if we go into a high level 1,000-foot view of how taxes work, in theory, you are paying for the taxes for the services that you consume. So as Jessica said, the tourists are paying the taxes that then go back into tourism. We, as residents, pay the taxes that go into our safety, police, fire. We pay the taxes that go into our roads because we drive on our roads, our libraries because we consume at the libraries. We pay the taxes that go into
our services.
The school, that was the other one. The school services we pay comes from property taxes because in theory you pay for the school where you live. So when the state structures the tax system like that, and then they take one of those, it's like a stool. Okay, it's like a 4-legged stool. And everyone's sitting on the stool, and each leg has a job and is holding up the weight of the person sitting on the stool. You pull the leg away, and you don't put something else there or redistribute the weight of the stool to be a 3-legged stool, then the stool falls.
Yep.
And the whole thing collapses. So, again, and then what? I feel like we should rename the podcast to be the "and then what" question.
Yeah.
And then what?
We should have signs made.
We should have signs made and put them out during election cycle season next to all of our people that we support that we're voting for. Be like, but then and then what? And then what? Politicians ask the "and then what" question. Yeah. And then what happens?
Because I mean, we went through a handful of bills today, and we saw problems with them. And
How are they not seeing this?
And then we asked questions like, "Oh, this could be a problem. Like, what are we thinking here?
What's the plan?"
So it's like once you start to, I mean, I love this stuff. I mean, I could listen to committee meetings and all of that.
Oh, I
kind
know.
of stuff
I was
all
gonna say
the
it's like a
time,
full time.
so
If I have anything else going, I mean, like not.
She could.
I know.
could.
Yeah,
I could.
it's interesting.
Our
Nerds.
state committee woman Jody Schwartz. She's been.
Oh yeah, did she got any bills she wanted to talk about?
Yes
I
and
didn't
no,
mean
but
to throw you off your
I
thought.
mentioned a few of them, but not that they came from her, but I've spoken to her quite a bit, so it's like she's decided this session to be in Tallahassee a lot, and so it's like she's been listening to these committee meetings and talking with our senators and representatives and things like that. So it's so great to have representation there, like really paying attention and understanding what's going on. It's so important for somebody to be there and do what she's doing. It's phenomenal. This is why I supported her, because I saw her big vision of being able to do that. So, but anyway, as I was saying, like, no, like she gets a kick out of watching these committee meetings and watching them go
So
through.
you get to
and-
nerd out together.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, like that's, and then it's like, then you can call people, like so it's like just an example, like if it's a police bill, like there's people that we know that we can be like, well, what's the thoughts on this? What's the
I'm
problems,
curious. I wonder if you could ask them, because I know you're talking about
Yeah.
the one about the first responders. I'm very curious because I
Yeah.
have a feeling I know what he's gonna say based off of previous conversations that we've had about other things, but I kind of have a feeling, and I'm very curious if I'm gonna be right.
All right. We'll
So
find out.
yeah, let me know what he says.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else? Do we have any comments or questions?
I was just looking up a couple things. So
Yeah, sorry. I'm just
that's all right.
firing stuff at you. I meant to bring, actually, I thought about bringing my laptop tonight so I can look up things, because I usually try not to do that so that one person's doing it. It's not chaos. But I should have done that tonight.
Nope,
so.
we don't have any comments.
Come on, guys.
We're just giving them such good information. They're just on
Just
overload.
writing it all down.
Yeah.
Absorbing it all. There's a lot of information. I feel like it just like drank from a fire hose.
I know. I
Gosh.
just feel like we just vomited all over the place, and now everybody's like trying to figure out what's going
What's
on.
going on? What's just happening? But this is probably what our legislators feel like. And again, I think we should. I really like this. Like, let's make less bills. Maybe 5. I would be okay with 5, but I still feel like 5 is a lot. Look, there's
5 is a
100
lot. But if you consider like maybe, if 5 go through, if like they're able to bring 5 to committee, the
What if it was
likelihood
this? Sorry.
of them being able to get all 5 to pass committee
I
would
need some statistics.
would be hard.
Yes, I would need some statistics. I'm very curious how many bills.
Which is probably why they do 7 is
7.
because they probably plan on 5 of them not even getting out
Right.
of committee.
But if there were less bills, then there would be more that could probably get out of committee.
They could be able to have more healthy debate
yes.
to be able to make sure the and then what questions are answered.
And then
That'd
I
be a
wonder if we
question
could.
for Peggy Gossett-Seidman.
Well, I want to know someone maybe who's good at numbers to do some statistics and percentages of how many bills are filed and how many get passed. A percentage of the bills that get filed, how many that actually get passed, and then how many get signed into law. I don't know if that's available or if we need someone who can run numbers, because that's not my area of expertise. But I'm not great at math. But that's why we have calculators. When I was growing up, they told us that you need to learn how to do this because you won't have a calculator with you at all times in your pocket. Jokes on them.
So typically in Florida, 3,000 to 3,500 bills are filed each year.
What?
The success rate is about 10 to 15% of the bills actually become law.
So that's 30 to 35.
30 to 35.
That's still a lot
That's a lot of bills
in a session.
in 60 days for them to be real. And these are laws. These are not like ordinances where then the next like commission can come in and change the ordinance.
On average, 200 to 300 bills pass both chambers.
And then the governor vetoes. That's a lot of bills passing chambers. That's a lot. See, Chat GPT. Love it. So I think I have a final thought. Not a final thought. My thought is they could say 3 bills, and you can have an extra 3 bills if you don't have anyone to have a companion bill. If you can get a companion bill, you can get 2 more.
Well, they have to have a companion bill regardless.
I know, but they don't have to work together to get the companion bill. They file it because they
That's true.
want to, and then someone else in the Senate goes, "Ooh, I want to that," or they go to that person and they work out some kind of deal. That's how that works. But if they say, "Okay, I've got 3 bills, and then I need because this is why I really hopefully we want to have Peggy Gossett-Seidman on when she comes back from legislative session, because I have these questions. Is like, what is that process like? Is it both? Is it like do people does she sit and look through all the bills that were filed in the Senate and go, okay, I want to write a companion bill for that? Like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And so how does that work? Because then that would determine, because yes, you need a companion bill, but if you get a companion bill immediately, you get an extra bill that you can file. I don't know. I'm just saying, I feel like we have too many bills.
I agree. And it's so hard for us as constituents.
And I feel like that's on purpose.
Of course.
And I don't like it.
I don't like it either, because it takes our self-governance out of our hands.
Yeah.
Like, we're supposed to be the ones to guide our representatives on what we want, and we don't even really get the opportunity to do that. Though I will
chasing our tail, grabbing at straws.
Though I will say that I think that not only is it by design, but it's also because nobody has really ever paid attention. So why?
Well, we're watching now.
Right. So I think I'm hoping things start to shift and change the more that we pay attention. But if we don't get good candidates and we get off our butts to actually vote, it's a moot point anyway.
Not only that, if everything just gets destroyed from the state party fighting over the governorship, I think that could be a big problem. I think we're going to scare the middle of the ground Republicans and the middle of the ground MPAs away with a big infighting. And we could easily, I think there's a simple path for a moderate Democrat to get elected. And it's really, that's scary.
Depends on who it is.
I'm not going to name any names. Just saying that based off of the historical infighting at the local level, if that gets carried up and continues at the state level, if the people who are in, let's just say, because this is the rumors that have been floating, that it's Byron Donalds and Casey DeSantis. And so you're going to have another, and Byron Donalds is the Trump anointed, and then Casey DeSantis is the DeSantis anointed. You're going to have another, clash of the titans of the people fighting on X from those two factions. How do we come back from that?
And then it totally destroys us in local elections.
Right, exactly. It's going to trickle down. It's going to destroy everything. And then you're going to have people who are going to take their toys and go home based off of the nominee. And that's how we get a moderate Democrat.
Yep. Hello, Janine. Janine just popped on and said hello.
Hi,
from
Janine.
Orlando. So she's checking us out. She did make a comment. She said it makes it hard for those voting on the bills to really understand what they're voting on. Right. Exactly. It doesn't give them the opportunity to ask and evaluate and then what questions to find out what the ramifications of these bills are then going to have. So it's very interesting. We're going to, lots to pay attention to. And these next, couple weeks, it's going to get really spicy as we get to the end of session, because everybody's going to try to, do whatever they can to get their bills to the floor. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to watch. That's for sure. So lots of good information. Make sure you're paying attention.
Follow us on X, because that is where we're really ramping up watching everything and reposting interesting things. And so we're highlighting stuff, commenting, highlighting stuff. So, and we love to hear from you guys on there and interact with you as well. So if you are on X, please follow us there. Our other social media platforms, yes, but really X is really where it's at for a lot of news, up-to-date news information.
Yeah.
Especially from the Florida legislature. So, just a note before we wrap up, and I had pass it off to Jess. Our next episode is going to be April 17th, I believe. Just double check. Yes, April 17th. And at the moment, we don't have a guest scheduled, but we'll see if we maybe can reschedule Commissioner Turkin for that night. I don't know. We'll keep you posted. So you got to follow our socials and subscribe to our newsletter to find and our updates to find out.
And hopefully after session, we'll have a slew of guests on to be able to kind of break down the session.
Yeah, that's what we want. So we have 2 more episodes before session ends, which ends the beginning of May. So we'll have our episode on 17th and then May 1st. And then, so I just want to give a shout out to 2 more things real quick, and then I'll hand it to you, is Passover is going to be coming next weekend. So Chag Sameach to everyone who's celebrating. I hope that you have a joyful and healthy Passover Seders with your families. And then anyone who's looking, is a little shameless plug for the studio my kids are part of for their arts program. It's a faith-based studio, so everything they do is clean and nice and wonderful, but they do a really great job. A group of highly talented kids. They are going to be doing Seussical this weekend. It's actually opening night is tonight, and it's at Olympic Heights Theater. The tickets, you can go to manybutone.com to get tickets. They're like $15 a ticket, and they always do a Bible verse theme incorporated. So they're doing Seussical, and so it's a person as a person, no matter how small.
Aww.
Is the theme that they're focusing on for Seussical. So it's the high school group. They're really good. I'm really excited. So yeah, you guys are looking for something to do and want to support a local organization that has strong family values and bringing arts, redeeming the arts, come see Seussical this weekend.
Awesome.
And that's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you, Josie.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. You can check us out on Instagram at We The Locals FL. As Josie said, be sure to follow us on X at We The Locals FL, Facebook at We The Locals. You can find us on our website at WeTheLocalsPodcast.com. That will take you to the link of our channels, our YouTube and Rumble channels. You can watch all of our episodes there. If you would like to email us any questions, concerns, comments, anybody you'd like to see on the show, would like to sponsor us, or if you would like to donate, you can email us. You can do that on the website as well, or you can email us at wethelocalsfl@gmail.com. Have a great night, everybody, and be sure to stay local. Bye.